Okay. So this is a beginning of a new shiur for me. It's teaching Chassidut. I've never done it before. I mean, it's not that I've never taught Chassidut because I teach Chassidut all the time, but I haven't taught Tanya before. And while I was in Eretz Israel, this past, not the Purim trip, but the next trip after that, can't even remember, there's been a lot of trips to Eretz Israel. I was spending some time with a friend and sitting on the porch of this gorgeous hotel in the Carmel and looking out at the mountains. And I just got this thought that literally dropped into my head that said, you teach Torah once a week. A person who's involved in Torah and a religious person should be learning and teaching Torah all the time. How come you teach yoga like 5-6 times a week? Why are you teaching Torah only once a week? And I'm like, interesting idea. So I started writing in my diary, maybe I should teach Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then right away, it became clear that that wouldn't really work out. That's way too much. And I was kind of like, what would really work with my schedule? And I came up with Mondays to do tefillot, to do chassidut, and I was thinking to do tefillah as well, chassidut and tefillah. Anyway, the thought kind of lodged in my mind, and a couple weeks ago, more than a couple, I think it was Parshas Matos and Masai, there was a teaching about the Ir Miklat, the cities of refuge, and I was reading about the cities of refuge, and I was reading the Rebbe's explanation of the cities of refuge, and it basically said that learning Torah is like a city of refuge. And with the city of refuge, the cities of refuge, it was very important that in the land of Eretz Israel, they had many, many signposts directing people to these cities so that people who were escaping from angry relatives because someone had accidentally killed someone else, the halacha is that there should be many, many signposts so that anyone who needs to get to these cities should get to these cities very quickly and easily, and they shouldn't be looking and lost and needing to ask the way, because then chas v'shalom, an angry relative of an accidental murder could catch that person and take revenge. So many, many signposts. So the Rebbe said that just like there should be many signposts to cities of refuge, so we as people should be those signposts directing people to Torah learning. And then I don't know, I've never seen such a sense of humor from the Rebbe like this, but the way I read it, it said, and you don't have to stand still like a literal signpost. You could actually kind of be alive and human in your signposting and actively gather and be involved and try and, bring people to learning Torah. And then, if I remember correctly, it also said that if you yourself get involved in teaching this Torah, you will gain for yourself guidance from above. That in directing people to learning Torah and in teaching Torah, you yourself will gain guidance. And I do believe it also said the following, and it said that even if not that many people listen to you while you being an active, alive, personified signpost leading people to the Ir Miklat, the city of refuge, even if you're being just like a signpost with, and you're not, there's not so many people listening to you, you're going to gain this guidance. So I was very excited about that idea. And at the end of davening, as I often do when I'm in the Tzemach Tzedek shul, I went to the back of the shul to pick up a letter of, a book of the letters of the Rebbe. And I often do that when I'm in shul. I'm just like, let me just see, kind of put it out there. Maybe the Rebbe has something to say on, whatever I'm thinking or whatever I'm have on my mind. So right after I saw this thing about, be an active sign to the Ir Miklat. And by the way, the city of refuge, the month that we're in, which is Elul, is also compared to a city of refuge. That just like people running away from relatives that might want to avenge an accidental murder. So too, during Elul, if you sit there, then I'll be looking at you if you want. Otherwise, I'm sitting there, so you can sit there. Just like Elul is a time that if we're being pursued by negative thoughts and not revengeful relatives, but negative thoughts that might be coming and accusing us of not being good enough or not doing the right thing or hurting this person or insulting that person or whatever, that Elul itself is compared to a city of refuge. Anyway, it's just an aside. So after reading this beautiful inspirational thing about the city of refuge, I went to the back of the shul and I took a letter, a book of letters of the Rebbe's letters. And I'm like, I wonder what the Rebbe will have to say. Is he going to endorse me for doing this? You know, because I haven't added on a shiur in my schedule of shiurim in 35 years. So it's a big thing for me. So I opened the letter from the Rebbe, and the Rebbe says something to the effect, and this is very loosely translated. The Rebbe says, so you want to learn Hasidus, and it's a little intimidating for you, and you're not really sure where to start. So let me give you some advice. The thing you should start learning is Shaar, Yichud, Emunah, and then you should learn Shaar Teshuvah, and then you should learn Likutei Amarim, which is kind of the inverse, because the Tanya usually starts with Likutei Amarim, and then it goes to Shaar Teshuvah, and then it goes to Shaar, Yichud, Emunah. And the Rebbe then says, and you don't have to, and the reason why I've never taught Tanya before is I've always been a little intimidated and felt that it's very complicated text and it's very nuanced, and I didn't feel like I would do it justice. The Rebbe wrote in this letter, and you don't have to get every detail. You could just get the general gist. That's also going to be helpful. And then it says, and if you need any questions, just ask me. So I was like, okay. So I guess I wasn't sure. I knew I wanted to do Hasidus. I was thinking to do Hasidus and Tefillah. I knew I wanted to do topics in Hasidus, but now it's clear that I feel like I was directed to start with Shaar, Yichud, Emunah, and then we'll see the next thing that was recommended was Shaar Teshuvah, and then finally Likutei Amarim. So that's the background to the story. And so I feel like this has sort of been guided a little bit from above, which is really going to be the topic of Shaar, Yichud, Emunah, because what it means, the title is the gate of unification and faith and trust. So that's really what we're going to be talking about. So just to give a little background, and I hope we are recording, because yes, we are recording. So a little background. So who is the author of the Tanya? So of course, we know we call him the Alter Rebbe. Another name of the Alter Rebbe is the Baal HaTanya, the one who wrote the Tanya. And who actually was this? This was Rabbi Shneir Zalman of Liadi. His father's name was Baruch. So really in Russia in those times, his official name would be Shneir Zalman Baruchovich, which I guess in Russian would be the son of Baruch, Baruchovich. So he was born in 1745 in a town called Liozna. His parents were Rivka and Baruch, and he was a descendant of the Maharal of Prague. So he got married. He got married at 15 years old to Sterna Siegel, a daughter of a local businessman, and he showed great intellectual promise. So just to give you an indication of what that intellectual promise looks like, by the time he was 18, he had already finished the whole Talmud with all of the commentaries. And then in the next 15 years, every year he finished the Talmud again with all the commentaries. So after, from the age of 18 for the next 15 years, he completed all of Shas every single year. So he became interested in Hasidism around the age of 20, and he attended the court of the Maggid of Mezrich. So the Maggid of Mezrich was Rabbi Dovber Friedman. We don't really hear, I'm not used to hearing his name, that he was a Friedman, Dovber Friedman. We call him the Maggid. He was one of the main students of the Baal Shem Tov. So just to give you context of time, Shneor Zalman was born in 1745, and the Maggid lived from 1704 to 1772. So he accepted the Maggid as his spiritual mentor and master. And Reb Shneor Zalman was very gifted. So when he came to the Maggid, he was very young. He was one of the youngest disciples. But yet he had this incredible intellectual bend. And when he was 26, the Maggid of Mezrich, the main student of the Baal Shem Tov, the main successor of the Baal Shem Tov, the Maggid gave him a big assignment. So just to, so the big assignment was that he should recodify the Shulchan Aruch, incorporating all the major commentaries that had appeared since its publication 2 centuries before. So the Shulchan Aruch is called a set table. It's all the halachot that was put together by Yosef Karo, and it's called Shulchan Aruch because it's Yosef Karo was saying, I'm going to put all the halachas on this table and lay them out like a set table, Shulchan Aruch, laid out set table. And that had been written 2 centuries before. And the Maggid said to the Alter Rebbe, you should recodify it and upgrade it and add in all the commentaries. And so just going to show you on my shelf here, these white books are the Shulchan Aruch of the Rav. That's the Shulchan Aruch as the Alter Rebbe updated the Shulchan Aruch. So that's what we call the Shulchan Aruch Harav. So that he did when he was only 26, and he got it done really fast. Most of it was finished by the time he was 27, 28, and then he carried on working on it for many, many years. But a significant amount of it was done in his first year. And then the Maggid of Mezrich assigned to the Alter Rebbe his own son as a personal tutor. I think his name was Reb Avraham. And he assigned him as his own personal tutor in Chassidut. So really the teachers of Chassidut to the Alter Rebbe, to Reb Shneor Zalman, was the Maggid of Mezrich and his son. So the Alter Rebbe didn't grow up as a Chassid. He grew up in a different, in the Litvish or Lithuanian tradition. And then basically what happened is that the Alter Rebbe gets in the middle of this whole conflict of Hasidim and Misnagdim that, the word Misnagdim, mitnaged, means that people who were against Hasidus because they felt that the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov were not, were going to lead people astray. So in 1772, the Vilna Gaon came out very strongly against Hasidus, extremely strongly. Said things like, I didn't even want to quote, but there is a quote that is what the Vilna Gaon said against Hasidim, something, I'll stick to my initial thought of not quoting it, but basically one should be very virulent in trying to, shut them down and make sure that their voices are unheard and all of that. So there were many people opposing Hasidus, and the Alter Rebbe was put right in the front line of trying to deal with these opposers. And he had a lot of followers in Vilna, in Lithuania and in Vilna. And the Vilna Gaon actually put a ban on Hasidism in 1797. The Gaon passed away, the Vilna Gaon, in 1797. And then the Misnagdim actually approached the government and tried to get not just tried, but got Reb Shneor Zalman arrested. Now, the story of this arrest is very famous in Chabad circles. Basically, the pretext for arresting him was that the Reb Shneor Zalman, or the Alter Rebbe, or the Baal HaTanya was collecting money in Russia for people who had immigrated to live in Eretz Yisrael, but Eretz Yisrael was under the leadership of Turkey at that time. So the Alter Rebbe was gathering money to send to the Jewish settlement in Israel, and then the opposers of Hasidism used this as a pretext to have him arrested, saying that he was raising money and being not loyal to the Russian government and supporting Turkey, which was not the case. He was supporting the Jewish settlement in Israel, which was under the leadership of Turkey. Anyway, he got arrested, and in Hasidic history, that arrest reflected what they say was like a kitrog, a decree against the Alter Rebbe from on high. Because even in the Hasidic circles, there was a difference of opinion of how much should the Hasidism be publicized? How much should it be taught and made available to all and sundry? And I remember from Crown Heights, when I lived in Crown Heights, there was a mashal, a metaphor or a story that would say that the king had a crown, and in the king's crown was a beautiful jewel, and it was so incredibly beautiful. But then the king's son got ill, and they had to crush the jewel into powder in order to give this son some special medication that was made from the powder of the jewel. And this was used as a metaphor to say that even though Hasidism was such a high teaching, and it comes from the Baal Shem Tov, and it's very mystical, and it's very, it's based on mysticism, it's based on the teachings of the Arizal and the Baal Shem Tov. Even within the Hasidic circle, there were some people who said it shouldn't be taught so publicly, because the Alter Rebbe was writing pamphlets and publicizing them and trying to teach the Hasidism as he understood it, because another one of his tasks that had been given to him by the Maggid was to codify Hasidic thought in a very organized fashion. And he was teaching this, and then there were this arrest from being reported to the authorities, and he was imprisoned. And according to the Hasidim, it was like, will he be given a go-ahead to continue teaching, or has there been this decree from on high that he has to sort of stop? And then he's released from prison, and that's Yud Tes Kislev, which is a big holiday in Chabad circles, because together with that release was the idea that he's been given a go-ahead to publicize his teachings and to make them accessible to people. And going together with the analogy of the precious jewel is that these deep and holy and mystical teachings are necessary, because the child of the king, which is all of us, the Yidden, we need this mystical aspect of Torah teaching. We need it. It's our healing. It's our medicine. So even if it's taking something very high that maybe in the olden days was regarded as mystical and only for the very erudite and learned and very developed scholars and whatever, that these mystic kinds of ideas are necessary medicine for all of us. We're all like the child of the king. So when he's released from prison, it's also great celebration, because it's kind of saying the teachings that he's making available to everyone are very necessary for all of us. Then he was arrested twice, in 1798 and again in 1801. And then after his second release, he transferred his court from Liozna to the town of Liadi. That's why we know that the Alter Rebbe, we call him Shneor Zalman of Liadi. That's how he's known. And then during the Napoleonic Wars, there's another bit of interesting history about the Alter Rebbe and Napoleon. Napoleon was coming in to invade Russia, and Napoleon was representing all these teachings of liberté, fraternité, egalitarité. I don't know if that's said right, but liberty, fraternity, equality. And the Alter Rebbe had a feeling that all these liberal ideas will give the Jews in Russia a lot of freedom, but would actually distance them from tradition and from their attachment to Torah and mitzvot. And so many of the Jewish leaders supported Napoleon because they liked the idea that Napoleon was offering freedom and freedom of religion, and I guess freedom of everything, because we know what liberalism looks like today, and we see where that's gone. And the Alter Rebbe felt very strongly that that was not going to be a good path for the Jews. So he supported the Tsar and the Russians against Napoleon. And I actually learned for the first time this afternoon that he was even involved in some espionage on behalf of the Russians. But basically, when Napoleon comes in and invades in 1812, Rabbi Shneur Zalman and his family flee. And their stories told that he took from his house every single thing, even didn't want to leave even a sandal or a piece of clothing or even any item that belonged to him, because it was thought or known that Napoleon or people with Napoleon practiced witchcraft. And if they got any of his possessions, they would use it against him in some negative way. So I think I don't know if he burned down his house or whatever, but he escaped. And then unfortunately, while he was escaping from Napoleon's army, he wandered for hundreds of miles in the bitter Russian winter for 4 months, and then fell ill, because that was very treacherous, wandering around the Russian winter countryside. And he died at the age of 68. And he was buried in Haditch in Poltava. So, and then what happened after he passed away, he and Rivka had 3 sons and 3 daughters. His oldest son, Dovber, established a Hasidic court in a town called Lubavitch, which became the home of the type of Hasidism that was taught by the Alter Rebbe, which was what we're going to be involved with tonight, and which all of Tanya is that through engaging the intellect, the chokhmah, the wisdom, which is the receiving of new information, the bina, which is the processing of that information, the chewing on it and the digesting of it, we're going to come to da'as, to knowledge and awareness, and that da'as is going to influence our heart. And in our heart, we have seeded the 2 main emotions, love and fear, love of God and fear of God, and that the source of our process is in the intellect, that it starts in the intellect, that it starts in the chokhmah, the
Bobby, get back to your class.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted.
Oh, what did you say?
Telling Avi to get back to his class.
Oh, yes. So let's mute you so you don't get excited again. And call. I thought you were getting excited about the teachings. I was like, yeah, she's so enthusiastic. But so the Alter Rebbe establishes, well, his son Dovber establishes a Hasidic dynasty called Chabad, which is in the town of Lubavitch. And so from then on, this approach of, thank you. Oh, Sarah, welcome. Then from the geographical town of Lubavitch, and many Hasidic dynasties are named after the towns, we have this kind of Hasidut called Chabad, Chokhmah, Bina, and Da'as, wisdom, integration, and knowledge. And just to distinguish it from the other kinds of Hasidut, which are called Chagas Hasidus, which are based more on an emotional response, you have Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferes, Chagas. And that's the other streams of Hasidism that are more responding emotionally, like, let's say, the teachings of Rabbi Nachman, which are not intellectual, but they pull kind of at the heartstrings in a different way than Chabad Hasidus, which is more, let's educate the brain. And once we educate the brain, that's going to influence how we think about things. And that's going to be the origin of the path. Whereas Chagas Hasidus is, let's stimulate the emotions and let's engage the emotions to find the path. Neither path is better or worse. It's just two different ways to come to service of Hashem. So that is the story of the Alter Rebbe and his son establishing the court of Chabad in the town of Lubavitch. Now, coming to the Tanya and the compilation of the Tanya. So the Tanya was printed in 1796, and manuscripts, different booklets, had been circulating already for 3 years. And the introduction to the Tanya is kind of like a letter to all of the students and followers of the Rebbe. And basically, the reason why he wrote the Tanya and why he wrote the different parts of the Tanya were to give guidance to all the people that were asking him about service to Hashem, to give guidance to all those people. And how do you give guidance when you're very busy and you have a life and you don't want people constantly stopping you in the street and asking you a million questions? You write a book. And then when you write a book, you put out the book, and then everyone has access to the information. And in that way, you can get out these principles of belief and of coming to a path of service in a way that isn't going to be so, draining and demanding for the person themselves. So basically, it's a collection of advice that he had offered his own disciples in private counseling. And if you've ever been with a doctor or a therapist in public place, you see how many people keep coming up to that person and saying, I know you're a doctor. I just have one little question. Do you mind? And then they constantly asking that person for a lot of things. And the person is like, I got to have a private life. So this was that. So he was delivering these topics publicly in sermons. So it was a work of progress that took a number of years. And right. So when he starts off the Tanya, which, remember, we're going to be learning the second part of the Tanya, actually, Likutei Amarim is the first. When he starts it, he says that his main teachers were the Maggid of Mezrich and the Maggid's son, and also Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk. So the Maggid's son and Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk. And then the Tanya becomes known as the Bible, so to speak, of Hasidic thought. So who are the influences of the Tanya? We have the Maggid, right? Rab Shalom Ber, Dov Ber. Rabbi Moshe Kadaviro, the Eitz Chaim, Rabbi Chaim Vital, and right, and Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk was kind of like a chivrus of the Alter Rebbe, and he goes to Eretz Israel, and they communicate a lot with letters, but it's mostly the Maggid of Mezrich and his son who are the main influences. And okay, so then that's really where the introduction. So the way we're going to learn this is that we're going to do it inside. So we're going to look at the text inside, because Chaim Miller who gives a beautiful explanation on the Tanya, he also says that there's different ways of teaching the Tanya, but if we take that and we separate the Tanya from the text, we're going to lose a lot of its beauty and its magic. So we're going to look at it inside, and that's the way we're going to approach this endeavor. So I'm going to try to find where I have it online. Let's try to find where it is, because I already have it. Let's try to see where it is. I have it. I had it saved. Let's see, where is it? Just hang on one second. Just hang on one second. Okay. So I have it here on the screen. So we're going to start, and it says here.
Is this the Tanya?
So this is the Tanya, but it's not the beginning of the Tanya. So if I have the Tanya here, this is what we traditionally call the Tanya, and you have Likutei Amarim, which has got a bunch of chapters, Likutei Amarim, and then the second part of the Tanya is Shaar Yichud. So you kind of a little bit into the Tanya, and it's Shaar Yichud, but it's very small. Do you want to follow it inside? Okay, so the Likutei Amarim, the collected writings, or the corrected utterances, or the collected teachings, that comes before, and then now we have part 2. Okay, so this part is, so it says here, Chelek Sheni, second part, Hanikra b'shem chinuch katan. This part is called the education of the young one, the chinuch of a katan, a child, the education of a child. And melukat mipi sefarim mipnei sefarim kedoshei elyon nishmatam eden. So the Alter Rebbe is saying that this is compiled from sacred books and from teachers of heavenly saintliness whose souls are in Eden, in Gan Eden. And so in this little commentary over here, so the previous Rebbe says that that's really the Maharal and the Shla and the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid of Mezrich. So these are pillars of Hasidic thinking. So, and then it says, Musar al Parsha Rishonah shel Kriyat Shema. And it's based on the first paragraph on saying Shema. Okay, and so, and what is it? So what does it say in Shema? It says, Chanoch na'ar al, well, it doesn't say this in Shema, but Chanoch le'na'ar al pidarko. You should educate the child according to his way. What does it mean, educate a child according to his way? So this is a verse that's often used to say that if a child likes to run and bounce and is more hyperactive or more creative, try to educate that child according to their personality. Don't do a one kind of chinuch fits all. Try to educate the child according to their own personality. So chinuch lena'ah al pidarko. Gam ki yizkan lo yasur mimena. So that when he gets older, he's not going to depart from it. So, hine medichtiv al pidarko. It's saying according to his way. So the Tanya, Reb Shneir Zalman is saying that you should educate a child according to his specific nature, so that when he gets older, he's not going to depart from the specific path that you taught him. So the Alter Rebbe has a question. He says, Hine dit midichtiv al pi darko mishma she'eno derech ha'emet la'amito. If you're teaching him according to his way, is this not the right way for everybody? If you're individuating it for his own personality, is this not the absolute right path? Why would you individuate? And if you're individuating, when he gets older, why would you want him not to depart from this particular way? And then it says, Ve'imkein me ma'aliyota shegam ki yizkin lo yasur mimenu. And if you teaching specifically to how he is as a child, what is the merit that as he grows older, he's not going to depart from it? In other words, if you have a child that loves Lego and you're going to teach him many concepts of life based on Lego, let's say, when he grows older, he's not going to need that. He's grown past that. What is the purpose of educate a child from his youth according to his way so that when he goes older, he doesn't depart from it? So basically, what's going to happen here is that this part of the Tanya is going to talk about how do we teach ourselves, really? If we, the young child, how do we give ourselves education in the right way so that when we grow older, what does that older mean? When we more mature in our ways of being, these fundamentals that we've been taught as a child are going to stay with us through thick and thin. Okay, so, and then it says, Ach hine meduat zot, ki sharshei avodat Hashem veyosodeha hein dechilu urchimu. It is well known that the awe, literally the fear, and the love of Hashem are the roots and foundations of divine service. We all know that we can't really do any service of Hashem, any work. Now, divine service, avodat Hashem, is toil in the world in the service of Hashem. All of that toil, all of that are rooted in two things, two emotions. And this is what I was saying before. The two emotions are fear. Fear doesn't mean making us afraid. It means that we have a sense of awe. Like yira is awe. That's fear. It's also fear of loss. If we do the wrong thing, we're afraid that we'll lose Hashem's connection to Hashem. So there's a fear of loss. And love, which is the desire to connect and be embraced by and to embrace Hashem. And this is a basis in Chassidut, that every single thing, all love of Hashem, all service, all action is either our not wanting to be severed from our connection with Hashem or our wanting to kind of be embraced and embrace Hashem. These are all these two things. And so hayira, and this is what it's going to say. Hayira, fear, this awe, shoresh v'su lasu meira. Yira is the root of all that we are told to stay away from. Every mitzvah, you know that we have a bunch of mitzvahs that we're supposed to do things. 248 mitzvahs that it says, you shall do this. Those are 248 of mitzvot aseh, active mitzvot. And we learn that that's connected to 248 actual limbs and organs and body parts that we use to do things we're supposed to do. And then we have 336 or 46 mitzvot where we have to refrain from doing the wrong thing. So it says here, hayira, and those are, by the way, the don't do are connected to all the blood vessels and all the veins where we have to like hold back our passionate our passionate blood. It's boiling, it's passionate, it's desirous, it's angry, it's all the things that our blood can boil from, good or bad. We have 365 places where those get constrained, or, don't go there, don't do this, don't get involved with someone who's not, correct relationship for you, don't steal, don't murder. Those are places where we have to hold ourselves back. So v'yira, this fear, is the shoresh, the root of everything that you don't do. Sur meira, move away from bad. V'ha'ahava, and love, v'asei tov. That's the source of all the doing good. V'kiyum kol mitzvot asei deoraita u'derabanan. And love is the source of all the positive mitzvahs, whether they're from the rabbis or they're from the mitzvah, it's from the Torah itself. Kamo sheyitba'er b'makoman. Like it will be explained in the right place. Okay. Now, mitzvah chinuch hi gam ken mitzvah taseh, and the mitzvah of chinuch, education, is also positive commandment. Kamo shekatuv ba'orach chaim siman shin mem gimel. Okay, so the mitzvah of chinuch is also important. Now, the Tanya is going to speak about this idea of commanding us to love. How can we be commanded to love? V'hine, ba'ahava, with love, when it comes to loving God, kativ, it's written, besof parshat Ekev, at the end of Parshas Ekev, asher anochi mitzavacha etchem la'asotah la'ahava et Hashem v'gomer. It says at the end of Parshas Ekev, which I command you today to do, asher anochi mitzavacha etchem, which I command you, la'asotah, not today, but that I command you to do. And then it says, la'ahava et Hashem, to love God. Can you command someone to love God? Can you command someone to love at all? How can you command an emotion? How can you do that? That's the question in the Tanya. Can you command? It's at home. Can you imagine a domestic situation and husband and wife are sitting and the husband says, I demand you to love me. Or the woman says to her husband, I demand you, I command you to love me. She says, you can't command me to love you. How can you command me to love you? That's a very good question. But at the end of Parshas Ekev, it says, Moshe is speaking and says, which I command you to do, to love God. But tzarich lahavin, we have to understand, eich shaykh lashon asiya gabei ha'ava shebelev. How is it possible for there to be a positive commandment when it's coming to this feeling of loving? Ach ha'inyan hu, but the explanation is, there are two kinds of love of God. And here you're going to see very clearly the root of the Chabad path. When I said before that the Chabad path is work with the Chochmah, the Bina, and the Da'as to influence the heart, work with the seichel, work with the brain, work with the mind. You'll see now how it's possible to command around love. What are we going to be commanding? What can we command? Not number one. And what can we do about bringing ourselves to a state of love? Can we be commanded to do it? And if we are commanded, what aspects are we going to be commanded to do? Is everybody with the question? Is everybody all right with the question? Mm-hmm. How can we be commanded to love? And then Chabad Hasidus showing us how we can answer this commandment. Okay. So it says there's two kinds of loves. Ha'achat hi klois hanefesh. There's this yearning of the soul. Betiva el borea. There's the yearning of its soul to the creator. It's almost like there's a story of the Baal Shem Tov, and there was a doctor and he could feel people's pulses, and based on feeling their pulses he could determine where they had illness or where they had sickness. And so he came to the Baal Shem Tov and he felt the Baal Shem Tov's pulse, and he said something like, you must be very ill, because from what I'm feeling like you have this tremendous malady. And the Baal Shem Tov said, it's my yearning of my soul for God. It was so in his pulse that it was like almost to the point of his soul expiring, but it could be felt in his pulse. I think that's the story. So there's something called Klois HaNefesh, and it's this natural yearning of a soul to its creator. The commentary has that this love is intrinsic to the soul because the soul is truly a part of God above. This love need not and cannot be created at all. It merely needs to be revealed. But how can such a passionate yearning become revealed in us who are so material? So let's say there's a part of us that has this unbelievable yearning and love of Hashem. How do we reveal that? How do we get in touch with that? How do we connect to that? Is it available to us or not? So it says, Ka'asher titgaber nefesh hasichli al hachomer. This is interesting. Ka'asher, when titgaber, the rational soul prevails over nefesh hasichlis, al hachomer, v'tashpilehu v'tachniehu tachteha. The rational soul prevails over the grossness of the body and subdues it and subjugates it. In other words, somehow we got to get we've got to get the rational soul to take a stance, so to speak, over I don't want to say the grossness, but the very materiality of the body, and sort of subjugate it and subdue it. It's an action. It comes from the rational soul, and it works over the grossness of the body. So, in other words, we've always talked about a godly soul and an animal soul. So if we look in this little explanation here, it says, the divinely appointed task of the godly soul comes to the fore to rectify the animal soul and refine the body by means of the rational soul comprehension of godliness. This is like a big ask. You have your physicality, which is involved in worldliness, and now you've got to kind of engage that godly soul to sort of take on a role of refining and guiding and educating the more gross part of the being. For the godly soul's own intellect and comprehension are too lofty to affect the body. The rational soul, however, embodies man's natural qualities of intellect, and such is close to the physical body. The rational soul comprehends godliness such a manner that it's able to cause form to matter, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So somehow there's a part of us that is going to influence the physicality of the body to want to pursue more godly things or think about godliness in a certain way. It's going to be explained more in the text, so I'll continue. So that the soul will flare and blaze with the flame that ascends of its own accord. Okay, but it's going to say in a few moments, a few lines, that this is not a level that's so accessible to us. Just before you're starting to think, this sounds a little like in out of my reach. So it says, as hitlahev v'tit lahet v'shalhevet ha'ola me'elaha. The soul flares and blazes with a flame that ascends of its own accord. And then it says, v'tagel v'tismach b'Hashem oseha v'tit'aneg al Hashem ta'anug nifla. And the soul exults and it enjoys and it feels connected to Hashem, its maker, and it delights in Hashem with a wondrous bliss. So some part of one's own godly soul is so empowered that it can influence the more physical part of ourselves and allow that more physical part of ourselves and allow our consciousness and allow our being to be so enamored and so in love with Hashem that we come into a great sense of bliss and bonding to godliness. But then it says, Vahazoichem lema'alat ha'ava rabba zu hem nikraim tzadikim. The ones who are able to do this, they are tzadikim. So what happens to the rest of us? What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to get to this level of love of Hashem? So it says, and I'll just go a little faster because I see it's almost 9 o'clock already. It says, not everyone is privileged to get this kind of love, which the tzaddikim get. It requires intense refinement of one's physical grossness, of one's physicality, and a lot of Torah study and a lot of good deeds that we should have the power to like inflame our neshama on that level. That's not so easy. And so all of that is very hard. But what we can do, the second level of love, Ki ava shekol adam yuchol lahagia eleha, the second kind of love that all of us are able to get to, can be attained through, and this is so interesting, through two kinds of meditation. Two kinds of meditation. Or not two kinds of meditation, but meditation on two different ideas, two different topics. Meditation topic number one, the level which every person can come when he meditates earnestly so that it echoes, the echo of this resounds in the depth of his heart. He should meditate on something, and I'm going to tell you what that something is, but on matters that arouse the love of Hashem in the heart of every Jew. Now, what does the Tanya say is the topic that he should meditate on? So let somebody else read this, because this is really a very crucial paragraph. This paragraph here, it starts with weather. Somebody want to read it?
It's not on our screen.
No, it's just a chart that says audio.
It's just it says audio recording. It's like the links to it.
You mean that I have been sharing this all the time and it's not sharing?
No.
Nope.
Oh my goodness, why didn't someone tell me?
We're
Because
so
I thought,
by what you
no, that's what you were doing.
Wow, it says here I am thinking that it's sharing and it's not sharing. Now is it sharing?
No, now we just see your beautiful face.
Wow.
I was to say, because I thought everybody's seeing, just not me, because I can't figure this out.
Wow. Wow.
I didn't even know.
No, it's not that. That's not. Wow, there I was thinking the whole time that it's sharing, and I'm so happy with myself that I got it on the screen and you're all with me and nobody said a word. Okay, well, I'm not going to be able to fix it now. I hope, there I was thinking that we were all looking at it. I wonder what I should do. Let's see, share, and here it is. And you didn't see it. Okay.
Oh, now we do.
beautiful.
Oh my God. Okay. So you didn't see it. Well, now you see it. So I want someone to read weather. You're so polite that you didn't tell me that it's not sharing. Okay.
No, I just didn't know I
weather.
was supposed to be seeing
You see
something.
this word weather? whether
Whether
Yeah.
he meditates
Yeah.
in a general way, how he is our very life. And just as one loves his soul and his life, so will he love God when he meditates and reflects in his heart that God is his true soul and actual life.
Okay, so this is it's a few lines, but it's very important. So first of all, I'm really sorry that I thought all this time you're sharing in the words and you weren't sharing in the words. So I'm a big apology for that.
That's okay.
But okay, so to get the love that you just see godliness and your physicality is negated to your spirituality and you just connected in this beautiful way, that's the way of a tzaddik. The way that's available to us is through meditation on two things. The first thing that we've been told to meditate on is here, whether he meditates in a general way or even a specific way. How Hashem is our very life. I'm going to explain this. And just as one loves his soul and his life, so he will love Hashem when he meditates and reflects in his heart that Hashem is his true soul and his actual life. So what does this actually mean? That Hashem is our own life. So I've got an explanation here. Just as a person becomes aware of how much he loves his life when he is weak and exhausted, and he desires and craves that his energy should return. And similarly, when he goes to bed, and he desires and yearns that his soul will be returned to him when he wakes up from his sleep. In the same way, I desire to draw inside me the blessed infinite light, the true source of life. So, in other words, if we think about Hashem as our life force, if we think about Hashem as our energy, if we think about Hashem as the difference between us as a body or a body with a soul, right? When after 120 years old, you could pull this so it's blowing on you, the heater. When you think about a body after 120 years, the body is just a corpse. It doesn't have the life force in it. That life force is the breath of Hashem. So when the Tanya is giving us a meditation, it's saying, I'm not asking you, says the Tanya, to think about Hashem as some man sitting on a throne in heaven, being the king of the universe, and asking you to love that God as a distant and omnipotent creator of the world. I'm asking you to love Hashem as the very life force that's animating your body, that's animating you. That's when you lie down at the end of the day and you feel and you want your life force to be given back to you when you wake up. When you say Modeh Ani, that life force that is within you, that is Hashem. And it says here, he desires and craves his energy, that his energy should return. If you think about God as your life force, that's what you're loving. You're loving your aliveness. You're loving the part of you that's animating you. That's a part of God that everyone can meditate on that and love God. You know, we always say, we are a chelek Elokai mimal mamish, we piece of God. What part of us is God? Our life force. That's what's God. That's what we have to love. Okay, so that's, and then it says here, the Zohar says, you are my soul. I desire you. Kamoshe katuv b'Zohar al pasuk. Nafshi ivisicha vagome. My very soul, my life force is God. So that's the one thing. And whether he meditates in a particular way, when he'll understand and comprehend in detail the greatness of the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be he. And that's the one meditation that he can have. And the second meditation he can have is how Hashem has been part of us through all our history, how he came with us down into Egypt. He went with us. He was with us. He's with us in our exile. He's compassionate. He stays with us, and he supports us, and he's there in all of our history. And so when we think about all the ways that Hashem has manifested his love to us, that's going to inspire us to feel this connection to him. And so these two loves coming about from contemplation, from thinking things, from thinking, A, how our life force is Hashem, and B, how Hashem is part of us through all of our ups and downs in history and all the places we've gone and all the things we've gone through. And so this is what we can command, that we can say, you have to love Hashem. What are we saying? What are we commanded to do? So just to read this last part, Shehi ahava asuya belev. This is the love that's produced in the heart. Al yedei habina, through contemplation. Vahada'as, and understanding. B'devarim ha'om ha'orarim et ha'ava. We think and we contemplate on things that are going to arouse and inspire this love. And so this is what we can be commanded. And going back to Shema, V'hadavarim ha'ele, asher nochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha. What are we being commanded? We're commanding to put these things on our heart so that we will come to loving Hashem, to focus our heart and our mind on the things that will love Hashem, and that this is what we're allowed to, this is what we should do. And so that is pretty much what it's saying. And then it's saying, and what about this thing about teaching a young person so that when he's older, he will kind of, it will stay with him and stick with him. And it's saying even the tzaddik who goes from level to level to level, even the tzaddik who can reach this first level, there'll be times when even he will need this basic level that you teach to a young child, that they can develop their capacity by contemplating on the right things and putting their head in the right place and kind of developing this love from effort and from meditation on things. And so even the tzaddik who can get to this great level, even he sometimes will fall and will fall back onto this level of the young child being instructed in this way. So that's kind of and all of this is, so this is what it ends with, this first pasuk, that even the tzaddik will be able to come back to this level of the second level that is available to everyone. So, so this is the introduction to Shaar, Yichud, Emunah. Yichud is unification. Emunah is faith. And so the introduction is basically giving us a little heads up on how we can work on loving Hashem. And then we're going to talk about in the coming verses how Hashem created the world, how he uses his utterances to put his energy into the world. We're going to speak about Hashem. When it says Yichud v'Emunah, Yichud, we talk about the tree of life and all the different aspects of Hashem. How do they relate to the unity of God as a oneness? So that's what's coming down the pipeline. Any questions or comments for now? Any questions or comments? I'm really sorry that you didn't see the text, but next time, just make sure that if you don't see it on the screen, tell me so that I can make sure. Okay, Bailey, you had a question.
No, it's not a question. I just wanted to make a comment. I just couldn't figure out how I unmute at that time when you were talking about the story of him being, the doctor saw that he's sick and he asked him what's going on. And he said,
My soul is on fire. It's almost, I'm lovesick for Hashem.
Sick, right. So nafshi cholas ahavatecha. I think we said it's in the Shabbos mirrors. Nafshi, my soul is sick.
Right. With love for Hashem. Yeah. Thank you. So Jill had a hand raised. Jill.
Hi.
Hi, Jill.
Thank you for the class, Bracha.
Good. I'm so happy to hear.
Yeah. So, I always was puzzled by why they say that, and I've heard this so many times, that you can't command love. But I find it to be very encouraging to hear it said that love is a commandment, to love God is a commandment, because you can choose the emotions that you feel. It's sort of like when you're giving an encouragement to somebody, it's an encouragement to do something that's not apparent, so, or, as opposed to like fearing. So I don't understand why they always say that, that's always, it's a traditional teaching that, it can't be taught, it can't be commanded. I take it like a way to choose your feeling.
I like the answer of the Tanya, that it says that even though you can't be commanded to love Hashem, you can be commanded to put your thoughts and contemplate things that will bring you to love. That's your task, is to look at all his involvement in your everyday life and how he's helping you. That could be under the category of how he went with us down to Egypt. Together with that is all the little myriad ways that he's helping us, all the little hashgacha practices and all of that. That's the one thing. And the other thing is you can be commanded to contemplate things that will bring you to that, to think about your life, to think about your energy, to think about your functioning of your body. But I do see that to command you to love, maybe it's a little bit of a jump if it's not your natural inclination or you're not holding in that place. But maybe you're on the level of the tzaddik who can come to it in a more, quicker way. But the Tanya is talking to the people that feel like they need more step-by-step instruction. And it's saying, meditate in these two ways: your own life force, or all the details of how Hashem is showing up for you in your life. And that will bring you to a love.
Oh, okay, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Bertha. I don't know how to raise my hand.
Oh, that's okay.
I have no idea where that little icon is. I had a very interesting aha moment just now. Sorry, my little girl's talking in the background. Just today, I went to a woman. She's some kind of healer, and I said, I need help. I need help. My energy is so low. I'm sluggish. I'm like pushing a truck. Help me. Like, is it my thyroid? Is it what's going on with me? And now you're saying that I'm craving the life force, which I'm craving my own life force, but what I'm really craving is Hashem. And you just put it together beautifully for me. So I have to take care of my physical aspect, but I see what's really going on beneath all that.
Well, it's always both and, right? It's both and.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah, but they're connected. They're very, very connected. Yeah. And I'm okay approaching it like that.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
Should have
Thank you.
Feel the chayas.
Amen.
Anyone else want to comment? Anyone else want to comment? Any other question? Yes.
Amazing. Oh, there's somebody else.
Yeah, that's good. You can.
I wanted to thank you. It was really, really amazing. I'm so happy I came on. I've been looking to learn Tanya for a long time. I've been begging my youngest son learns Tanya, and I wanted him to do a phone, it on the phone.
Right.
But it wasn't working out. So here you are. Hashem.
Good. I was guided by the Rebbe. This kind of wasn't from me. It's really, when it popped in my head to add in another shir, I was not even thinking, should I add in another shir or not? I wasn't even thinking about it at all. And then it just like boom, came into my head. Why do you only teach once a week? You got to teach more often. And I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, I'm glad that you enjoyed. Any other comments from anyone else? Leah, it's so nice to see you on the line.
Baruch Hashem bracha. Thank you so much.
So nice
And
to
also, I've been wanting to learn Tanya for a long time. I learned it in Yerushalayim for a while. It was wonderful. And here you are. Thank you.
I think
Beautiful.
I think also it's helpful that I'm not starting at the beginning of Tanya because I've done it so many times and I'm so happy to be starting in like a new place. Shaar, Yichud, Emunah. It feels like, you know, it's just helpful to me because I tried that first part of Tanya a few times and so it's very refreshing that we're starting with Shaar, Yichud, Emunah. Anyone else have a comment before we close off for the night?
Just want to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Liz. You're welcome. And I look forward to seeing everyone 8 o'clock next Monday. Yes, it's okay to learn Tanya under the age of 40. That was the thing that in our times now, the neshamas are so hungry for emes that we need to learn Tanya, we need to learn Chassidus, we need to learn mysticism. It's pekuach nefesh. We have to learn the mystical aspects of Torah to save us and connect us to truth and to Hashem and to emes. And so even if we're under 40, even if we're not Kabbalists, even if, well, I'm not under 40, but even if we aren't totally learned, Chassidus is accessible to the masses and necessary. So yeah. Any other comments, questions? Otherwise, I'll say good night. All right. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next week. Same place, same time. Sei gesund. Have a beautiful week. And if anybody wants to learn on Wednesday nights, we do Parshat HaShavua, same link, 8 o'clock Wednesday night. Okay, all the best. Sei gesund.